Alex, there's a specific kind of heartbreak that only happens in a wood shop. It's that moment you've spent 3 hours perfectly fitting a tenon. You go in for that final whisper thin paring cut with your chisel, and instead of a clean slice, the wood just crushes. It looks like a beaver with a grudge had a go at it.
I've seen that look on your face. It's the I'm about to turn this workbench into firewood look. So let me guess, today we're talking about why that beaver decided to move into your shop?
Exactly. We're talking about the one skill that separates the folks who fight their tools from the folks who dance with them. Sharpening. It's the most neglected, dreaded, and absolutely vital part of the craft. If your tools aren't sharp, you aren't woodworking, you're just rubbing metal against trees until one of you gives up.
It's the sticker shock topic too. I remember looking at sharpening setups when I started. You see these $300 Japanese water stones and these precision jigs that look like they belong in a NASA lab, and you just think, maybe I'll just buy new chisels every time they get dull.
Believe me, I've been tempted. But here's the reality. A cheap chisel that's been properly tickled on a stone will outperform a $100 boutique tool that's straight out of the box every single day of the week.
Okay, let's ground this for the listeners. If I'm just starting out, maybe I've got my Stanley #5 jack plane and a few basic chisels like we talked about last week. What is the actual goal here? Because sharp is a pretty subjective word.
Think of it this way. You're trying to create the intersection of two perfectly flat planes at an impossibly thin line. When a tool is dull, that line isn't a line anymore. It's a round shoulder. It's like trying to cut a steak with a rolling pin. You want that edge so keen that if it even looks at a piece of cherry, the wood starts apologizing and falling away in curls.
I've heard you say that you can tell if a saw is sharp just by touching it. That sounds like a great way to end up in the emergency room.
Don't tell my insurance agent. But there's a trick to it. You don't run your finger along the edge. That's how you get stitches. You just lightly, and I mean lightly, press the teeth of a saw against the palm of your hand. If they grab your skin, kind of snag, and refuse to slide, you're in business. If it feels like a butter knife, you're just making heat, not cuts.
So walk me through the trench warfare of sharpening. You've got your stones out. What's the process? Because I see people talking about oil stones, water stones, sandpaper on glass. It's a lot of noise.
It's a holy war, Alex. People will fight you in the streets over oil versus water. But for a beginner, don't overthink it. I personally like DMT diamond plates. They stay flat. If you use a traditional stone, you eventually hollow out the middle like a sway-backed mule, and then you're sharpening a curve into your tool without meaning to.
And the grit? Where do we start?
If you got a nick in the blade, maybe you hit a hidden nail or drop the chisel on the concrete floor, you start at the angry end. Coarse grit. You're hogging off metal there. Then you move to medium, then fine. By the time you get to the extra fine stones, you aren't really sharpening anymore, you're polishing. You're removing the scratches left by the previous stone.
I noticed you're using a little metal wheeled thingy to hold the chisel. Is that cheating? Because I saw a guy on YouTube sharpening freehand while balancing on a unicycle.
That's a honing guide. And no, it's not cheating, it's sanity. Look, freehand sharpening is a beautiful skill and it's great when you're in a hurry. But for a beginner, use the guide. It keeps the angle consistent. If your angle is wobbling all over the place, you're essentially rounding over the edge you're trying to make sharp. It's like trying to build a house on a foundation made of jelly.
But wait, I've seen you sharpen a handsaw before, and you didn't use a guide for that? You just had this tiny triangular file and a lot of patience.
Saw filing is a different beast. It's intimidating because there are so many teeth, but it's actually very zen once you get into the rhythm. The problem is, most people send their saws to commercial shops. Those shops often just shear off the old teeth and machine cut new ones. It's like going in for a haircut, and they decide to take your ears off too. You lose a 1/4 inch of blade every time. Doing it yourself with a file? You're only taking off a few thousandths of an inch. That saw will last your grandkids.
Okay, let's talk about the dread. Why do woodworkers hate this so much? Why is there always that one chisel in the back of the drawer that looks like it was used to stir cement?
Because it feels like non-work. You want to be building the cabinet, not preparing the tool to build the cabinet. It's like being a chef and having to stop mid-service to forge a new knife. But once you realize that a 10-minute sharpening session saves you 2 hours of sanding out, tear out, and bruising, the math starts to make sense.
Is there a good enough point, or are we all chasing this mythical, molecularly thin edge that can split an atom?
Oh, you can definitely go down the rabbit hole. There are guys who won't touch wood until they've stropped their blade on a piece of leather charged with submicron diamond paste until they can see their own reflection. For most of us, if it can shave the hair off your arm without pulling, you're ready to rock.
I've seen you do the arm hair test. You've got these weird bald patches on your forearms all winter.
It's the mark of the craft, Alex. If a woodworker has hairy arms, don't trust his joinery.
Let's pivot to the cost for a second. You mentioned earlier that hand tools can be expensive. If I'm on a budget, can I get away with the scary sharp method? You know, the sandpaper glued to a piece of glass?
Absolutely. It's the best way to start without dropping 200 bucks on stones. Get a thick piece of plate glass or even a granite floor tile from the big box store and some wet dry sandpaper. It's dead flat, which is the only thing that matters. The only downside is you burn through sandpaper like a teenager burns through data plans. Long term, stones are cheaper, but to get your feet wet, sandpaper's king.
What about the back of the chisel? I see people spending forever rubbing the flat side on the stone. Is that just busy work?
That is the most important part that everyone skips. If the back isn't flat, the front can't be sharp. Remember, an edge is the meeting of two surfaces. If one of those surfaces looks like the surface of the moon, your edge is going to be jagged. You only have to flatten the back once, really, when you first buy the tool. From then on, you just give it a quick polish.
It sounds like sharpening is less about the tools you buy and more about the discipline of just doing it.
It's a mindset. You have to stop seeing sharpening as an interruption to the work and start seeing it as the work. When that plain blade is truly sharp, the sound it makes when it hits the wood changes. It's not a scrape anymore, it's a zip. It feels like the tool is pulling itself through the wood. That's the feeling we're all chasing.
So, what's the one thing a listener should do tomorrow if they're tired of fighting their tools?
Go to that drawer, pull out that one chisel you've been avoiding, the one that's so dull it couldn't cut a banana. Spend 30 minutes with it. Don't worry about being perfect. Just focus on keeping that angle steady. When you get that first burr on the edge and you flip it over and feel that keenness, you'll be hooked. You'll start looking for things to sharpen. My wife won't let me near the kitchen knives anymore because I make them dangerously efficient.
Well, I think that's a good place to leave it before you start sharpening the lawnmower blades with a jeweler's loop.
Hey, don't knock it until you've tried it. But seriously, folks, sharpening is the gatekeeper. Master the stone, and the wood will do whatever you ask it to.
Thanks for listening to The Tiger Den. If you've got a shop disaster story or a sharpening tip that changed your life, hit us up.
And remember, if the wood is winning, your tool is thinning. Get back to the bench.